And now we've got our final entry for this particular group of Patreon supporters, the semi-brev level. And this is just a great complete score that Russell turned in of like the entire piece by Mussorgsky. And yeah, just I mean some really great stuff later on in it, and there's a lot of there's just a lot going on. Now notice over here the way that he's kind of stacked up all of his percussion as as separate lines. There were people who were using the same percussion line and just changing back and forth constantly between instruments. That's not the way to do it. You should do it like this, okay? Because that is just the way the conductor wants to read it, and score readers like myself would like to read it, and and yeah, that's just that's much more readable. Okay, yeah. So I really liked this particular arrangement because of the that just it has a wonderful quality. It's sort of like Cacciatorian. Do you know what I mean? Or just like, especially here, like with the timpani, just like keeping time. That was just so much fun. Like almost like this was like a ballet, like or it reminded me of Minkus. Do you know? I don't know if you've heard any Minkus, like some of his early ballets, like Russian ballets. They're just really really fun, and they have this just just lovely, energetic pulse to them, right? And there just was some of that in here. I mean, you also hear that in Borodin's Polovtsian dances. That's also a place where you'd hear that. So there's one little problem here, and this is something that I saw in a couple of other entries, and that is that the Celesta seems to be scored an octave too high, but it's like I can't really decide whether there are certain parts that are scored too high and other parts that aren't, and so on and so forth. But the range of the Celesta is from, like the actual concert range is from, the written range is C below middle C, up to the second C above the treble staff, right? Whereas in piano, we go up to the third C, right? But that third C, the second C there, actually sounds the third C. So everything is transposing up an octave, right? And I mean, that's how it should sound in this, like in your Sibelius sounds. So, I mean, certain notes go out of range for the Celesta, and like they don't actually sound anything in the sound set. So you might want to do a little bit of editing on that, Russell. Just really check to see, like, there are some things that actually go below, C below middle C, I think, like written. So maybe everything is an octave off, right? But that's one of the things I just cannot tell whether, what people mean. And like, there was one particular entry where I tried to clear this up, and I just kind of made an idiot out of myself, kind of trying to guess what it was. All right, now here we've got an open, an open harmonic here. Okay, so this needs to be notated an octave higher. right? So that is what it should look like, right? So that's the intended pitch. So you sort of, like with just a simple circle, you might want to indicate the intended pitch. But I mean, the problem with this, of course, is that like with pizzicato, pizzicato harmonics are so soft. I mean, they're even soft like on the instruments with the bigger strings. So this may not be as effective as you intend it to be, right? If you really want an instrument to be able to play this pitch as well, like it might be, you might have intended really to be playing, for the sound of the of that to be. Oh, you know what? I'm just realizing that you probably meant open string here. Okay, well, okay. But if you had intended this to be an actual dynamic, an actual harmonic, I would say give it to the cellos who can play it as an open harmonic. But yeah, so all right, so I kind of prefer the actual. Okay, so this is what confused me. All right, is that you put the symbol over every single note, right? So if you just put it over the first one, then I would have said, oh yeah, he means open. But you put it over every single one, and then you said simile. Then that made me think, oh, so that means that these are all harmonics, rather than being open strings, right? So that just confused me a little bit. It's actually a pretty minor point of notation, but anyways, not to get too caught up in that. This all works pretty well. I like the real strict division between the pattern and the melody. I think that is a really great choice, and there were very few entries that had that kind of really strict division. But very effective nonetheless. And I like the variation between timpani and bass drum. I mean, if you got this big battery of instruments, you could have done tenor drum alternating with bass drum, right? And then you would have gotten a similar effect to this, and you wouldn't have lost that really strong on beat, right? On baton stroke kind of feeling here. This works pretty well. The oboes um, and the clarinets, and I'm just for my own comfort here, I'm gonna change it to transposing. Okay, so that's just easier for me to read and understand. All right. Yeah, and this is very very cool as well. I like the last few little timpani beats, and then the sort of swoop with the strings alternate. Excuse me, with the winds alternating with the strings, back and forth. That's really really a neat idea as well. Have not seen that often yet in this challenge, if at all. So yeah, this all works really great because it's homogeneous scoring, right? It's just all octaves in either winds or strings, and this is the strongest particular instrument used in the particular range, right? So other than that, there's not a whole lot to talk about in this first page, which is great because I've been really discussing the first 13 bars over and over again. So let's move on. The next part has pretty much the same basic strategy here. Yeah, see, we've got once again, all you have to do is just mark the first one to let us know that you mean open, rather than like when you do more, then it seems like that they're harmonics. Same thing in the cello. All right. And the horns and everything is all fine there. So yeah, so here you're going to celesta playing the melody. And the funny thing is this, like as I've mentioned before, in other places where the celesta has been asked to score or has been put in the score, there really is no celesta dynamic, right? You can say mezzo piano or whatever, you can tell the celesta player to play louder and softer, but there's the degree of loudness and softness. It just really kind of isn't there. It's almost like a one dynamic instrument. So yeah, so it kind of doesn't even matter what kind of dynamic you put there. But all the same, it works. once again, I would say check the register, right? Because if you wanted this to, if you wanted this to be in this range, if you wanted like the sounding range of what you're reading here, not the actual sounding on like on the Sibelius app, but like the sounding range of this, then this should be written down an octave, right? Same thing as here, like you've got an out of range note up here. Like this is not sounding like anything in the Sibelius app. That's because it's out of range. Your highest note on a celesta is written C above the staff, right? So like the second C above the staff is your highest note. All right, and this is all really cool too. I like this, bass drum, hard sticks. That's fun. Little clarinet there, and just all done very well. The little celesta with the piccolo, and it's all very cute. And then here we start to get into some fun stuff, just some new territory. Oboe answered by flute, A2, flutes A2, and then back. Now be aware, A2 oboes. If you were looking for like a sort of an elegant, artful sound or artless sound, like just a sort of a coy, innocent, sort of sweet sound, then don't score A2. And the same thing with the flutes, right? You get a very thick kind of combined sound up there, but it won't, like, see here it's doubling the strings, so it doesn't really matter. A2's fine. But you don't have anything doubling the oboes as they go up. This is just going to be a nice exposed A2, and what you get right there is kind of like a more hard cutting sound. It doesn't have the same sense of espressivo or innocence or whatever. It's more, it's the oboes, like the more bitter oboes, after the divorce or something, right? It's more like kind of a harsher sound when you have them A2, right? There's a tendency, maybe I should check this with oboe players, but there may be a tendency to avoid too much expressive vibrato when playing A2 anyway, so that the vibrations don't pull apart too much. There's still some, but that maybe just kind of very wide and slightly randomized. Like that might be something to avoid if there are two players playing exactly the same note, which just contributes to the very harsh sound of it, right? So anyway, so just watch out for scoring very exposed A2 oboes. I think you need to go A2 and then just keep saying it whenever you go back to A2. Okay? And the same thing here for the flutes. I know it's very fiddly, but the copyist will thank you. Okay, this is cool. You have a little soft stick roll, okay, with a little dash of cymbal, soft cymbal. If you use like a medium soft stick here, or like maybe a hard rubber stick on this, then that's another way of kind of controlling the emotion here. You're going boom, right? Now it's interesting that on the mock-up, it really felt like it was going forward and hitting this harder than it was. But it's just the fact that this is one of my big complaints about Sibelius mock-ups is that there's no degree of like restraint at all to their cymbal strike, right? You don't get a tish and then a crash. There's no variation really, like no realistic variation. It's just basically is the crash sound at different volume levels, and that just really robs young composers of getting any sense of what suspended cymbal sounds like, or what a cymbal pair sounds like when it's played softly, or swishes, or there's all kinds of really cool effects. I mean, come on, you guys, not to be too hard on Arne, who's like working on the Note Performer plugin, but yeah, I just feel that so much more could be done with cymbal sounds. Okay, and then I love this beautiful sort of ripple. So, but like, see, if this is if this is at pitch, right, then this A is too low, because middle C is the lowest sounding note on a celesta, written C in the bass staff, like, right down here. So if this is intended to be at the at the concert pitch, then this note is out of bounds, right? So I mean, just have to sort of which barrier are we violating? So you don't have to tell me, it's all right. I mean, just work that out, and realize, watch out for that problem. Okay, so now we're getting into some pretty intense playing here. So at that really fast tempo, this is pretty hard. Like, it's the kind of thing that, like, splitting up between groups is pretty helpful. Just could take some really good players. To, like, this isn't so hard, but I mean, at that speed, this is going to take some practicing. It's not impossible, and for a very good player, it's not all that hard, but it just is something that would, it's like not the easiest thing to just sort of like chuck in there. I mean, it's helped by the fact that you've got doubling in the winds, and for the winds, it's a lot easier. You know what I mean? But it's still, yeah. Now that was one of the spots where, I can't remember. I think I used harp or something, or bassoon. I kind of tried to avoid strings, as I recall. But I mean, I don't know. At this point, I've looked at about how many entries. 6 times. I probably looked at about maybe 40 entries by now. So if I don't even remember my own entry, my own orchestration, then please don't beat up on me. Okay, now this is cool. Bringing out these particular pitches just by a little bit of push here, a little bit of mezzo staccato in the flute, and same thing happening here. Some mezzo staccato in the clarinets to just kind of give a slightly different blending texture here, and then and also trading around, between clarinet and English horn. That is going to work fine. Okay, and then this is really cool too. Most people have interpreted this very, very well. This, ba 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 bum. That's nice. It's a little touch of piccolo in there, doubling the first flute. Kind of, I mean, providing harmony here and then doubling right in here. So that's all really fun, and just keeping the English horn busy right in the middle here, and then finally doubling it with the viola. That's a very effective combination, and then like bringing some punctuation to these pitches with the pizzicato. That's also very, very cool. So well done. And then celesta. Maybe we're starting to see a little bit too much celesta here. What if this was harp both times, right? First, like, mezzo forte and then forte. You got to be careful not to allow the celesta to start to take over your texture, your sound picture too much. But otherwise, pretty cool. Really, really, I just really felt that the entire score that you sent me, Russell, was just really excellent. So let's take a look at the very last page that I'll evaluate for this particular evaluation. But just to let you know that Russell just did a great job on the rest of the piece. And then we get to the part that I've been calling the sort of mini apotheosis that sort of ends in disappointment here. And once again, I just feel like people could have used ritardando here a bit more, and then maybe even sort of stretched out this moment a little bit by adjusting the tempo, like maybe with a hidden object, or just adjusting the fermato length or something like that with Shift Command or Control I, and then a tempo right here. But this is all very solid scoring right in here. The trombones and the trumpets and horns, it's all working out pretty well. The one fly in the ointment here is, like, there's nothing wrong with the scoring up to right around here. But here you're asking for pianissimo on a high G sharp with horn. So, like, the horners can feel like they are playing the pianissimo that they give you up there, right? but that's not pianissimo compared to everybody else in the orchestra. So, there is really kind of no need for, there might not even be any need for any of these high pitches at all, considering that they're all being played by the first trumpet. There's like no need to double that first trumpet. So, probably the better thing to do is just to have more horn doubling lower pitches, and maybe give the trombones more of a rest, because in a lower register the horns have so much more control. Like, they've got the most control of any of the brass, right? So they can bring their pianissimo down to a fine point that you just cannot believe. And actually, most brass have that kind of control, but like the horns in particular, like really good horn players, man, they can just go down to a whisper. It's just amazing. So yeah, so I would just say, like, just try not to score way high like that, and expect a pianissimo. I mean, like, if you're just to stay at forte, then there's no problem at all up there with a good player, I mean, just not an issue. But yeah, but G sharp at pianissimo is too high. And then, like, right up here, right around here, we're right around mezzo piano or so, and that still is kind of getting problematic. So, and you never know, like, how fast the conductor is going to bring down the dynamics as well, just by their hand gestures. They might, like, the conductor might get to right around here and might just decide that he wants everybody to be piano, and just, like, really give them the hand, right? The hand that sort of presses down on the imaginary dynamics button, and so the player is just really going to be struggling by right around this G sharp, right? So just really watch out for those high pitches. I would say, just, like, don't expect a piano above F, really, and F at the top of the staff, and, like, pianissimo, just, like, even a little lower than that if you really want a beautiful, fine, controlled pianissimo. Okay, this is all really cool. You got your flutes kind of dancing around up there, and clarinets, they're all doubling with the strings. That's all really cool, and yeah, the clarinets will help make up a little bit for the fact that you have, around 30 violinists and only maybe around 14 viola players, right? So that'll balance out a little bit because you've got clarinet down there. So, it'll sound more even. But if you're really obsessed over complete and perfect balance, then you can always go divisi here and turn this into, like, an octave part for the second violins. Anyway, so once again, Russell, really great score, and, like, just to let everybody know, I just really appreciate their support here on Patreon. And I know it's, like, not easy. Like, I want to let everybody know I never take their contribution for granted, ever. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm amazed that anybody is able to contribute at any level, because we are all we're all musicians. We're all we all are either professional or we want to be professional, and we are struggling here, and the fact that you guys are contributing and supporting, I mean, that humbles me. I mean, I just, I appreciate it every day. I just think I have the greatest job in the world whenever I put on my educator hat and take off my pro orchestrator hat, and just, sit down and make these videos for you guys, or write a tip, or maybe make an online course, or any of those other kinds of things. And I just appreciate it so much when you get back to me and you let me know, whether or not something helped you figure something out in your own work, or let me know, like, what you're doing with your career, like if you've got a great commission coming up, or any of those other things. I just really do appreciate it so very much. So thanks, everybody. You guys are great. I think that this is the greatest community on the internet, Orchestration Online, and I think that the Patreon group is just amazing. It's like one of the most amazing parts of that community. So it'll be maybe a couple of days, and then the brev entries are going to start coming, and then after that, the dotted brev and longa entries that have, like, that are represent entire arrangements. So thanks to you all once again. And thanks for sharing these great arrangements with me and giving me so much fun things to talk about. That is just really awesome. See you guys soon.